Okay, Linda, this is bad news on Steele and Vance. What are we talking about here? We got B-roll of people drinking. Why do we have B-roll of people drinking? Because we also are drinking, and there's bad news here.
Yeah, because there's new guidelines where they have revised since 2011, when I think they used to be able to say women could get away with drinking 7 a week and guys 10 drinks a week. Now they're saying no more than 2 alcoholic drinks a week.
A week?
And in fact, they say no amount of drinking alcohol is good for your health.
I'm tearing down the fourth wall because earlier when Linda's like, maybe just top this up, give me a little Snicker, and I poured it in, she's like, okay, I have officially had my full drinks for the week.
Well, here's the thing. I did see a really interesting online thread from a health historian in Canada at Brockton University who deals with drug and alcohol policy. And he dug into the research they used to create these new guidelines, said there were 5,000 studies. They only cherry picked 15 of them. There were harm reduction people who were in charge of it. In his mind, it's hard for me to encapsulate it all, but he basically felt that they were being alarmist. So it is still a good idea to drink less. I think we can all agree that.
I think so, and I think binge drinking is part of it as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's really important for people to identify what their body can manage and handle. I think everybody processes alcohol differently. And growing up in a European family, if my grandparents were alive today, the Yugoslav and Dane were alive today, they'd be going, we have wine with dinner every day.
Yeah,
but they don't get drunk every day, right? And there are people who will have a martini at lunch and 2 after work and then drink until they sleep and wonder why they don't feel well. So there's like moderation.
Or guys
is
who can
key,
say, I
right?
just cut out drinking beer for a week and I lost 20 pounds. And I think, oh, guys are so lucky. It's true. However, can we talk about Canadian home prices?
Yes.
Because my
please.
condo's worth a stupid amount of money. It's a shell game. I mean, I would never cash that in unless I moved to Regina or something. But Canadian house prices have had a record drop.
Good.
I think they're down about 13% year over year.
Yeah.
And they're saying they're going to be flat a bit as we're going through this year because we're in kind of a mini recession and interest rates are so high.
The whole point of raising interest rates is to cool the housing market because Bowen Island last year went up 100%. Like you're double in a year. That is not healthy for an economy, and it was piling up and piling on, and we've seen that happening here in Vancouver for years and years. As long as I've been alive, born and raised Vancouverite, everybody yearly has said there's a bubble. It's going to burst. Never has.
I know. I've heard that too. Here's the thing, though. The housing prices are going to go back up again.
Oh, yeah, for
because
sure.
they will, and we have the Bank of Canada set to announce potentially another rate hike on the 25th of January, which I think is next Wednesday. And economists are saying, oh yeah, that we're not quite there yet. We have seen inflation sort of cool to 6.3%.
Yeah.
So that's better than it was, but that's because gas prices have dropped. Food prices still.
We got to get Sylvain Charlebois back on from Dalhousie to just give us the 411 on when that might shift. But you're right about the Bank of Canada rate, the hike that's expected. Had a conversation with a banker friend of mine yesterday about this, and it's like, on one hand, there's a media narrative that is very recession-based, and then on the other hand, there's, Main Street and Wall Street, and there's that piece of the puzzle that you also have to listen to what is said just after the increase. It is expected to be a 25 to 50 basis point hike, and depending on what that hike is and what is said after that is how we will look at the markets.
You know what's interesting? When I was able to renegotiate my 5-year mortgage, I think about 6 months ago, and I was like, oh no, interest rates were on the way up. And I got in at about 3.5%, which seemed high because I was at 2 point something. But I just checked, and that same 4-year bank rate is now 6 point something. So, and it meant for me about $300 more a month.
Variable mortgages right now are hitting a lot of Canadians where they live, pun intended. Coming up later on the show, you got to stay tuned because an NHL player who said no to wearing a rainbow jersey has caused a bit of a stir. We will weigh in on that.
And stay tuned because Premier David Eby is in studio. Next, we're talking housing, healthcare, crime, so much more. Stay tuned for David Eby.